These episodes of Andor keep getting better and better, and these most recent episodes 7, 8, and 9, absolutely fantastic. The best episodes not only of season 2 of the final season, but of the entirety of Andor so far, of the series. As I said before, I've been a pretty big fan of Tony Gilroy's take on Star Wars. To me, Andor, and also by extension Rogue One, is Star Wars done right. It just feels like so much effort is being put into the characters and the dialogue, the stories themselves, just the writing. For the first time in a long time, it just feels like Star Wars is growing up a little bit. And that's not to say I haven't liked some other even recent Star Wars shows. Like I certainly enjoyed stuff like, The Mandalorian season 2, of course, and some of the animated fare. But I don't know, I've been yearning for a Star Wars series and movie like Andor for so many years, having read so much of the EU back in the day. Reading stuff like the Thrawn trilogy and having that be like a little darker, reading some of these more like these anthology books, as I mentioned not too long ago, the Tales of Jabba's Palace and the Bounty Hunters and Tales of the Empire. It's like, they weren't afraid to get a little more mature, weren't afraid to get a little darker, since they weren't just under the supervision of George Lucas. And I like that, incorporating even some of that lore into Andor, particularly this season with the Gorman massacres, because that's what these 3 most recent episodes really focus on. Like the previous ones, they all take place. It's a story within a however many years before the Battle of Yavin. The first arc was 3 years before the Battle of Yavin, or I guess 4 years before the Battle of Yavin. The most recent one was 3, and this is like either 2 or 1 or something like that. And it's really cool because you're starting to see more of the Rogue One aspects starting to pop in the Andor and A New Hope. We early on in the season, we saw Cassian on this jungle planet with this disparate group who are fighting amongst each other, who are just kind of all morons, all idiots. But then at the end of that little arc that he had with them, as he's blasting off, having escaped with that advanced TIE fighter, you realize it was on Yavin. And now Yavin is now the home of the Rebel Alliance. So they're all in the temples right now. You're seeing all the X-Wings and the Y-Wings and things. You're seeing the return of some other Rogue One characters now at this point, which I think is great, including a big fan favorite from Rogue One, K2SO, which I thought was wonderful, and how they're handling that, I think was really cool. So a lot of the aesthetics that we recognize from the original trilogy and even more recent things like Rogue One are now in place. We're getting closer and closer and closer to that movie and the events of A New Hope. And so if you really vibe with Rogue One, if you really vibe with A New Hope, then I think these episodes, certainly on an aesthetic level, are going to be very pleasing to you. But the thing that is most brilliant about these most recent episodes, just Andor overall, again, I've talked about this, and I think Tony Gilroy and his people have executed this incredibly well over the last couple of years with this show. And that is, what is it like to live under space fascism? Not like, for our, like heroes or these characters that are larger than life in the Star Wars universe. No, for the schmucks, for the Joe Schmoes, just the blue collar workers that are just trying to, make their way, provide for themselves and their families, and to live a nice life. What is it like to live under that? And this show has showcased that extremely well, especially within these last 3 episodes, and where you see, it's established in the beginning of the season with Director Krennic saying, listen, we are building the Death Star, okay? And it's taken a while, and we need this very specific material. It's very, very rare, and the nearest planet that we can get this from is planet Gorman, all right? But Gorman, they're a peaceful planet. These people, they make clothes. They make clothes with spiders. They got friendly spiders that everyone likes, okay? They're like Space France, chat. They're Space France, essentially. And Director Krennic and the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, with Dedra Mero and everyone else are like, okay, how can we make everyone hate Space France? We gotta just make everyone think that these Gormans, the Gore, are assholes, and that's what it's been building towards. The Empire at this point has imposed martial law on this planet, has imposed multiple restrictions, has villainized the Gore, even though for the most part they've been incredibly peaceful in their protesting, and have only acted out because they have been so oppressed. And so much of this has just been orchestrated by the ISB, by the major imperial players at this point. It's a trap, essentially. They're setting the trap. They don't have a Death Star yet, they're not, to blow up the planet. It's like, no, we have to bide our time, make everyone resent these people, especially in the core worlds, the politician, and they get into the propaganda of it all. We have Imperial Fox News in this show where they're just lying through their goddamn teeth and tentacles and holes, their various orifices, chat, basically saying, yes, as Deadpool said, the Gormans are eating the pets. That's what Emperor Palpatine is saying. That's what Papa Palpatine is saying in this series. And all of his various mouthpieces are saying, and it's like, oh my God, it just really shows what I appreciate. It's like, yes, the Empire is evil, Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine, Death Star. It's like these Grand Moff Tarkin, like these larger-than-life figures. That's like, yeah, these guys are villains, but there's something about the intimacy of fascism. It's seeing it for example, on a smaller scale, and something like Andor, that just makes it so vicious. The way it just permeates through a society, how the Empire seemingly has so much control, and so many people are afraid to speak out. Some people just like capitulate to them and spread their own bullshit, even though it's hurting them and their own citizenry. It just makes you go, fuck the Empire. It's like, you're 100% on Fiona Shaw's side. Now you guys, like, you gotta get rid of these fuckers, okay? They are just sucking the life out of the galaxy in order to control what's ever left. And you see the results of that in particular for this planet. Like Cassian and Bix are now living on Yavin. They got their own little cabin on Yavin, and they're baning in their hot little cabin chat. Although, Cassian, he got injured recently. He got shot. He's got a blaster injury that's not really healing. And this actually leads to something really interesting before he eventually goes to Gorman, because something sets him off. Something's like, okay, I got to go to Gorman to do this thing. So the show hasn't really delved into the Force at all. Like it all. And I'm not one of those guys where it's like, I need to see a lightsaber battle every other episode. I need to see, everyone's got to say, may the Force be with you. I'm not Star Wars theory, okay? I'm not that moron. All right? I'm like, I like it when they explore different aspects of the Star Wars universe. It makes it feel more rich, more broad. There's more to it. It's not just, it's a galaxy. It's a fucking universe, all right? It's not a neighborhood. It's not a space neighborhood, okay? I don't want to see the goddamn same cantina in Tatooine, and Mos Eisley Cantina. I don't need that, right? But this is the first time the show like really kind of touches on the Force in a fun way, in an interesting way, in a kind of a sad way, where Bix is taking Cassian essentially to this Force healer that's on Yavin, and who is trying, because these people who have these horrible injuries, these phantom pains and things, just PTSD because of how difficult it is fighting the Empire and just living under a fascist regime and just in these circumstances and environment. And like Cassian's like, this is fucking bullshit. I don't want anything to do with this. And then this woman just suddenly feels like a connection. At first you think like she's crazy or whatever, and Cassian's kind of off-put, but they just have like a really interesting conversation, a very somber conversation. She's like, listen, I understand if you don't believe in any of this. I think that's totally fine, but you're here for a reason. There's something about you. I sense something about you. And to be honest, I don't even know if I believe in the Force. Like, she's even really like, I don't know. I've had this connection before and it's fleeting. And she has this moment where she like touches his wound and you hear something. And it was, I just liked how subtle the Force was. And it wasn't about like midichlorians or people doing fucking 15 Force jumps in the air and it leads to nothing and all that bullshit. It was just this subtle thing that I thought was handled really, really well. It made the Force interesting and mysterious and cool, to be perfectly honest. I just liked that moment a lot. I thought it was really interesting how Tony Gilroy touched on the Force in such a subtle way that didn't make it obnoxious or weird or confusing or just be like, oh God, here we go again with all this mumbo jumbo, as Han Solo once said. It's like, I really liked how he talked about the Force. And even some of these Force users, these people are just like, I don't even know this is real, but I felt something, which I like that. Any case, his friend that's been hanging off of Saw Gerrera, he's like, hey, Dedra Meero, she's on goddamn Gorman. Let's kill her, all right? It'll be fun. We can assassinate her. It'll be real good. Ferrix and all that. He's like, all right. And so he goes back to the planet of Gorman, which is under martial law, and Dedra Meero is essentially going to do a culling. Is essentially going to commit genocide on this planet. And we see also more of her relationship with Cyril. And they've had such a fascinating, weird romantic relationship this season. These two people who have a variety of social and anxiety, sociological, psychological issues in this bizarre romance. But I really liked where it ended up in this episode. And I really loved what happened with Cyril. And his character and his journey, his realization of like what's actually going on, what the Empire is, how his perspective has changed over time. They really sold, and just I don't want to get into too much, but I liked where his story ends up, and I thought, yeah, that's how it goes. I thought it was brilliant, but. And people that have been complaining that the show doesn't have enough spectacle, you get an incredible and also terrifying action sequence in the 8th episode, which is essentially the Gorman Massacre. It's incredibly well done. The production values for this show have been at 11 the entire time. But it's the type of like action where it's like, it's cool, but this is kind of fucked up. Because a lot of people are dying, and they're not dying heroically, at all. It's not like, oh, look at that. Like, we're standing tall. It's like some people just die poorly. Some people get shot in the gut and are crying and shitting themselves, and they don't know what to do. It's like they don't die heroically, and I like that. I like seeing that in the Star Wars because it's dirty and nasty. And it shows you the lengths the Empire will go to manipulate the population, sacrifice its own troops. All of that I think is done very well. How even some Imperials are like, I don't know if we should be doing all this. This is kind of foul. I don't think this is a good thing, right? I loved all that. And then even just little moments of, and this is what Rogue One I think did well, is like you had these little moments of heroism for all those characters. And you get that with some of the characters that we've been introduced to in this season. It's fleeting. It's a one moment they do that is heroic, where maybe they save someone, or a group of people, or they stop something, and then they're killed the next moment horrifically. And they're never going to be remembered. No one's going to bring them up. But in the grand scheme of things, and this, I want to touch on this again, it just makes you go like, holy shit, like, when you watch Rogue One, which has the same thing, where it's like, oh, the unsung heroes who stole the Death Star plans, which then leads to, them being discovered, them being taken by Princess Leia, and then them being found by, R2-D2 and C-3PO, and then finding Luke Skywalker, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi and Han Solo, and then all of them coming together and destroying the Death Star. It's just like, you have this rich history now to all that. All that plays together, and so much is riding on these few people to get the job done because of all the sacrifices from the past. All these characters, whether it be someone like a Cassian Andor or just a hotel attendant. Some hotel attendant whose dad got fucking crushed by Grand Moff Tarkin a decade ago, and he's had that chip on his shoulder, a justified chip on his shoulder ever since, and he gets one heroic moment now, he's fucking dead. It's like I like that, but I think that's really, really cool. Really cool. And it's also a great introduction to, as I said before, one of the most, I think one of the best Disney-era Star Wars characters outside of Cassian Andor, K2SO. It makes the K-series, this episode makes the K-series droids just really terrifying. There's just the way in which they move, how they essentially slaughter people. Like, they are literally picking someone up and just smashing them on a wall, and they're dead. It's not like, oh, I'm going to throw you up in the air, and you're like, I fell, and it bounced, you got up. It's like, oh, my hip. It's like, no, you hit the ground so hard, your head fucking caved in. And it's like, oh, my God, you see blood splatter and stuff with these things? Like, And listen, before K2SO became the K2SO we all know and love, he did some foul shit. He killed a lot of innocent people that didn't deserve to die. And I love that. I loved his introduction. And we're going to see a lot more of him in this series in the last 3 episodes going forward, which will be really nice. Because I'm interested to see what Cassian's relationship will be like with K2SO in those last 3 episodes. Essentially, the next movie, if you will. Because I kind of look at this as like each 3 episodes is essentially a movie, which I think is really cool. Since, they're almost typically the first 2 episodes are like 45 minutes each. And then the last episode is like 50 to 55 minutes, nearly an hour, which is really impressive. I love that. But then all of this, because of martial law and the slaughter on Gorman, essentially a genocide, this then finally leads to the eventual arrest of the Gorman senator, who is just like, I don't know what to do now at this point. Everyone thinks I'm a dirty traitor. Everyone thinks I instigated this thing. He ends up getting arrested. And Mon Mothma, who has been kind of like, again, so crazy. A character we saw in Return of the Jedi was essentially the leader of the rebellion, the face of the rebellion, major political force. Many Bothans died to go see all that. It's like, oh, okay, whatever, it's fun. But and then they brought back this actress who originally Genevieve O'Reilly, who played Mon Mothma in Revenge of the Sith, and all of her shit got cut out. Bringing her back in Rogue One and like, oh, nice little cameo role, but then having her like return again for Andor and actually giving her so much to do and really telling her story. And yeah, Mon Mothma, she's such an interesting, fascinating character in the Star Wars universe, and just having some goddamn good material for her to, for Genevieve O'Reilly to just kind of gnaw on, I think is great, because she realizes, and we also see the return of, and I like how, Tony Gilroy and his people like reintroduce familiar things from Star Wars. It doesn't feel like member berries. He's like, no, it makes sense that this person would be big. Like Bail Organa is in a lot of these episodes. And I think that's really cool. And they recast him. It's not Jimmy Smits. It's I just blanked. I blanked on his name. Benjamin Bratt. And he does a really good job. And you see a little bit of the relationship, their friendship. But then Mon Mothma realizes, like, I gotta say something now at this point. Because she's been biding her time. She's been, pushing money towards the rebellion, do as much as she can to legislation. But now it's at a point where, like, senators are being arrested in broad daylight and no one fucking cares, and the Imperial propaganda is at full force, is at 11. And very similar to Fiona Shaw last season, who I'll tell you what, Tony Gilroy he can fucking write a monologue. He can write a goddamn speech pretty goddamn well. And he does it with Mon Mothma here, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Like her speech about the monster's here, and that monster has a name, and that monster is Emperor Palpatine, and all the Imperials are like, oh! They're all freaking out, and they're like, arrest that bitch, kill that bitch, we got to get rid of her. And this leads to just a fantastic sequence where, after the Gordon massacre, Cassian needs to get involved, asked by Luthen, who is at his end's rope. He is not doing well. And it's like, that sunrise he'll never see? Yeah, that sunrise is about to rise up. I don't think he's going to see it very soon. He's not in a good place now. Basically asks him to rescue Mon Mothma. We get a fantastic sequence with them. And Mon Mothma really, because she's in the rebellion. She's doing this, but she hasn't been in the action yet in terms of the front lines, in terms of the fighting, in terms of the like truly nastiness. She's always been slightly at arm's length from it. And now she's in it and she's like, holy fucking shit. Like it's all dawning on her. The shock is on her, and she's trying to, and Cassian's like, listen, you gotta fucking wake up. We gotta do this right now. As he's like murdering people she's known her entire life. It's so good. And her finally realizing that, and because like, you better thank him, and she thanks him too, which I thought was great. And I want to go into more detail about some of these things, but I don't want to spoil it. But this episode ends in a very sad way, where I suppose it sets up, Cassian's just, outlook and in view of a lot of things leading into Rogue One. If I have one criticism of these 3 episodes, which I think are great. And the tension is so good. The Gilroys are great when it comes to building tension across their projects. But the one criticism I have these episodes, that Bix is just she's just hanging out on Yavin in the hut. Where I thought, like, oh, okay, well, she finally was able to get a form of vengeance last 3 episodes. Now she's going to be more active and more involved. And then she just really wasn't these last 3 episodes. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I figured it would be kind of actually good if she was involved in, like, during the events of the Gorman Massacre. That would have been more interesting to me, personally. So maybe I would guess they have stuff planned for the final 3 episodes. They would have to. I think that's necessary. But outside of that critique, I was like, I wish they gave her more to do, because Adria Arjona has been doing a lot of great work here and has gone through a lot this season. Like, the Bix Kayleen character is just like, God damn, girl. But yeah, these 3 episodes are really good. Highly recommended. So much of what we've been building to explodes in a grand, terrifying fashion. We see the end of a number of characters, and I feel like a lot of their endings are very satisfying and just poignant and sad. Again, it's like, oh, now, again, we have so much more context for Rogue One and then A New Hope and the destruction of the Death Stars. It just makes it more meaningful. It's like, you fucking get rid of this thing, all right? So many people have died because of this thing. And not, taking Alderaan out of it, so many people have died. So many people have fucking suffered for decades because of this project, because of the Empire. It's horrifying. But you realize, like, all these people that died for it, they're not going to be remembered. And that's what makes it, like, oh, kind of sad. But we'll remember them, which I think is really cool. But in the context of the universe itself, their action of heroism be like, forgotten, a wisp in the wind. I don't know. It makes Andor somber, and I like that though. I like that feeling. I think that's good. I think that's very, very good. And I think this show is very good, and I highly recommend it. I'm very excited to talk about the last 3 episodes when we eventually get there. Obviously next week, and doing kind of like a full just Andor season 2 review, Andor series review essentially, but. Yeah, I highly recommend it. I think it's great. And there's, again, so many other characters I can name here or there, but the whole cast is doing a killer job. They give them great material. It's just, this is what Star Wars needs. It's what it needs, and it's what it deserves. And my fear is we're not going to get this again, or at least for a while. And I feel like we should. That's just my thoughts. What about you guys? What do you think of Andor? What do you think of most recent episodes? I thought they were fantastic. I think it's the best the series has been yet, which is saying something, because it's been very good. Were you more mixed on it? Did you downright hate it? Do you need to see lightsabers? Did you need to see racist caricatures like Jar Jar Binks? Let me know. 5 minutes later. Biggie Smith, 0, no lightsaber, 0 out of 10. But they did have a Force user in there. I liked how they handled it. She's like, I don't know how I got the Force, but I sent some. Oh, man, let's see here. Star Wars European Union, yeah. You're just seeing the rebels going from being ragtag groups of insurgents to professional military. Yeah, and then we finally see that. It was like, oh, they're a fucking military force now. Like, they have a shit ton of ships at this point. They have a lot of leaders. They have financing at this point. And that's really, really cool to see. And some people from different, like, walks of life as well. I really like that. They got money. The Gormans eating the pets. They're terrible. They're eating the spiders. Papa Trump. Palpa Trump, indeed. Deadpool also fits in Rogue One. Are the Force is guiding the heroes? Yes. Protecting them until they did their jobs. The Force is guiding Andrew. Yeah, deliver the message. Yeah, the Force is guiding him. I like it. He's not a Force user, but the Force, again, it goes back to what the Force was first described as by Obi-Wan Kenobi, by Ben Kenobi in New Hope. The Force is everywhere. It surrounds us. It penetrates us. Maybe essentially guides us. And we see that. And Tony Gilroy is adhering to that statement, to Ben Kenobi's definition. I think that's really cool. Really, really cool. DJ Actors voices Yennefer, which, yeah, I heard about that. I saw an interview. I was like, what? She's great. She's really great. Those KX droids are horrible. They are so scary. They're really terrifying. There's a moment where I don't want to spoil too much, but a character walks into a room where it's just all the KX droids just sitting down. They all stare at him. Or no, it's like they all stare at him at first, and they all kind of go back to like doing whatever. But then one keeps staring at him. It's like, God, these things are creepy. They're really creepy. And they make them, they're scary. They're very scary. They fuck things up. Oh, let's see here. Honestly, I think they should do a Mon Mothma series next and an excuse to do more Rebel stuff. That's true. That's true. Yeah, they could. Yeah, I think that'd be really fun to do with her. They've given her so much great material, and they could continue her story and make it like a political threat. Yeah, that'd be so cool. Because what happened to Mon Mothma? You know, like in between, essentially, Rogue One, New Hope, and to Jedi. Like, where was she during the events of Empire? Was she on Echo Base? Like, we don't know. I think that'd be kind of cool to explore. Like, where was she during all this? Convery's happy tapping dino dances. I'm happy tapping dino dancing because Andor. No lightsaber 0 time. This show hits me in the manly tears. Yeah. No, I got emotional watching these episodes, especially episode 8. It's like, oh fuck, this is horrifying. Good to see you, Soldier Blue. I'm waiting to binge it all, but it sounded great. So it's really good. Must have lots. You got a lot of midichlorians, yeah. Trey brings back, the Force being its mysticism. It's just this thing. It's just this. Again, like, what's Obi-Wan's quote about the Force? It's really, I know we just watched A New Hope. Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Force. The Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect description. And that's essentially what the lady was explaining to him. It's like, I don't know what it is, but there's something about you, and I think I need to be here, and I know you don't believe, and that's okay. I was like, hippie, or what I'm going to call it, hippie mumbo jumbo. All you need at your side is a good blaster, kid. So true. Oh, man. But it's great. I highly recommend Andor, chat. Real good. Real good.